All right, so this week I'll jump back into the wild world of Monster Hunter Rise with this spiffy new PC release. So if you've bought it on Switch, is it worth getting again? That's kind of like what I'm answering here. So first off, we should say thank you to Capcom for sending us the PC code to review. And as I normally do, I sort of like to just give the headline of what I think of the game first, so then people can just jump off the video.
Don't do that.
No, but of course I will. This is just, it reminds me of how much awesome, like of an awesome game Monster Hunter Rise is. And it actually makes me angry. It makes me angry that you haven't got into this game because I need to go on hunts with you, you bastard.
So sorry, I was busy completing all my resolutions, acing them, unlike some people on this podcast.
Pretty easy to ace them if you can change them on the fly. But I'll serve that back to you.
Didn't change anything last year. Anyway, back
I
to
should have done
Monster
that. I should have gone, I've changed them all to things I've already done. But anyway, let's park this argument. Yeah, this game is just super awesome. Like the Switch game, I've played stacks of hours of it. And then playing the PC one, it's kind of like interesting because, and I put this at the bottom as a con, but, it's super disappointing that you can't cross-save between Switch and PC. It does seem like they tried to figure out a way to do it. And they did post on Twitter, Capcom, saying, like, sorry, we, like, after a lot of investigations, basically determined we couldn't do it. Whatever that means. If it seemed like maybe it was just so much of an uplift on their end, like server-wise, and it sounds easy to do that functionality. It's never that easy. It's always like pretty tricky, to be fair to them, but it is disappointing, that element of it. But like simplistically, if you haven't played this game on Switch or don't have a Switch and you're more of a PC player, or as I said, you don't have a Switch, it's just such a like obvious buy if you're interested in this genre or this type of game at all. I played only a little bit of Monster Hunter World. Before that, I'd never really played any of the Monster Hunter games, but I couldn't almost imagine going back to Monster Hunter World just because the sort of movement and flexibility of this game with the wire bugs, it's sort of like, I find this with Zelda games as well. Some of them feel very like locked onto the ground if you don't have as much flexibility versus ones that have hook shots and all this other kind of functionality. And now I always feel like going back after I played Breath of the Wild, it feels like, oh my God, I'm like really like stuck and I'm just looking at ladders and things like that. And this game's very much like this. The wire bug is just so awesome in this game. And just like going through some of the pros on the PC side, like big thing is like, it's an awesome port. Like they've actually put a lot of time and effort into this. This is not one of those console ports that you sometimes see where, they've launched it, they've done a pretty hacky job. It's actually a decent, super awesome console port of the game. So massive tick there. And sort of, like compared to Halo Infinite, to be fair, like when I started playing Halo Infinite on PC, I was like shocked that I couldn't bump it past 60 frames per second. I'm like, what the hell? This is so bizarre. I'm on PC. I should be able to ramp this up. It's a first-person shooter game. They've subsequently changed some of those things. But with this game, on the other hand, I've got like my 1440p 160 hertz monitor, and I was able to run the game like pretty much at, like 140, 150 frames per second on the highest settings. And it looks freaking amazing. Like the game looks so awesome. I've always said, and I think I said in my review of the Switch game, like when it came out, like I think it's probably the best looking Switch game. So it's kind of an awesome thing in a weird way when you've taken like a Switch game built for the Switch, I think fundamentally, then take it to PC or other platforms because it's already optimized. So then you're just going to amp it up and it just runs like buttery smooth. And as I said, like the game's just super awesome. Like you get into these awesome game loops where, you're going out in hunts, you're trying to chase certain things that you want, certain armor, certain weapons, just, completing a lot of the missions. I haven't done, I have to admit, a lot of the multiplayer missions. I think I just need to like, unfortunately, team up with some randos to get through a lot of them, because you can do that in the game, obviously. It would be good if a certain person on the podcast finally started playing the game, but
Don't put your failings upon me.
It's not my failures. Your failures of not playing it.
It's your failures.
And like the biggest thing for me is like, and this is linked back to Valve saying, yep, they're pretty confident that Steam Deck is coming out this year in Feb for those who have ordered in the US. Unfortunately, Australia, we don't get to be able to order it. Man, this game would be just freaking awesome on the Steam Deck. And the fact that, it would have the same save data because that's all handled by Steam. So you can, play this on your PC, super powerful PC, then play it on the go or just, on the couch or whatever. It is just it's causing me to go, shit, like, what am I going to do? Am I going to keep playing it on the Switch, which I've already plowed in dozens of hours, or switch to the PC? Because I don't think I've said it on the show, but I've decided I'm going to get a Steam Deck. I'm just being a realist, and I'm like, shit, I'm going to get a Steam Deck.
I think you've made it clear that you'll be getting a Steam Deck at some point.
Oh, okay. Okay, I didn't realize
Just
that.
your enthusiasm, I think, it proves that.
Yeah, look, I think the thing with the Pocket, picking up the analog Pocket, is I realized I'm more of a handheld gamer than a console gamer. Out of all gaming, handheld has always been my bread and butter. I've played so many DS games, so many Game Boy Advance games, 3DS games, all that kind of stuff. Going back to Game Boy, I think I've always just preferred the format because it's just so easy to play. So yeah, I'm super pumped about the Steam Deck. Hopefully it gets announced in Australia shortly. And I think I'll be picking that up. And then that will really, I guess it just totally depends if I get through more of it, or maybe I can get the DLC on PC or something. So maybe get the DLC on PC and finish the main game on the Switch. I don't know. It's a shame that you can't transfer the save.
Just scorched earth. Just start on PC.
Start again.
Try
maybe
some different weapon types. To me, that's the benefit of being forced to start over with that kind of game. It's like I've been, when I play through World, I just got so comfortable with 2 weapon types. But there's so many different things that are completely different that it's it's a good chance to try new things.
Yeah. And just so many, pros to this game. Again, I don't know why I care about this stuff, but it pisses me off when you install a Warzone or something like that. It takes 100 gigabytes or 200 gigabytes on your hard drive. This game, because it's been optimized for the Switch, it only takes 20 gigs on your hard drive. And I don't know, I just really appreciate stuff like that.
I do too.
Yeah. Negatives, I covered one of them before, which is the cross save. It's just more of I don't know. I think I'm much more understanding of why they can't do that than I think a lot of other people are. I imagine there's a lot of engineering work to go into that stuff. And I always appreciate when devs do that. The in-game cutscenes are all in 30 frames a second. And by the way, the reason why I know that is because I've been switching back and forth between the Switch version and the PC version. I didn't realize the Switch version is 30 frames a second. It just feels very solid. It's one of those games that's a solid 30. And I always argue a solid 30 I'll take over a very fluctuating 30 to 60. Honestly, I feel it's just easier to play something that doesn't skip or jump or have dives and stuff like that. I don't know. It's a weird one. You won't really notice it, but yeah, the cutscenes are all 30 frames a second. The thing that shits me the most though, and it's the easiest fix, is why the hell do all these freaking PC games assume that you have an Xbox controller? They're always wired to have the Xbox layout of A at the bottom, B in the right, X on the left, and Y on the top, in the face buttons, and it shits me, man.
Well, up until maybe the last couple of years, that was the standard. So I 100% think it's ridiculous, and it's something that surely they'll patch out. They'll patch in, I should say. But I think they're probably just stuck in that mode still. But it's inexcusable.
It's lazy. It's totally lazy. So I mean, I'm only familiar with things like Game Maker Studio, and that has it by default. You can just it detects, and it's not I'm talking about very esoteric, controller scheme, the using a DualShock or a DualSense or whatever. I think it's somewhere in the order of about a quarter of PC players use that as their controller. So it's not a small group of people who, and it honestly does throw me off. I see it because I'm not an Xbox player. So I mostly Switch and PlayStation. So when it says press Y, I'll literally press the Nintendo version of where Y is. I'm what the and I've consumed an item or something like that. And I'm oh, Why does this show me the wrong thing all the time? It's so bad that I'm like, should I just go and damn get like a Elite controller or something? Like, it's pissing me off so much. But look, I honestly don't have much bad to say about this game. I love it. Yeah, if you don't have a Switch, this is just like such an obvious buy to me if you're into these type of games. And looks awesome. You know, like, it probably won't get the right reception, unfortunately, on PC. But, you know, it's a freaking awesome game. I still feel like the game's a bit underrated. Like, I know that Monster Hunter World hit everyone really, really hard. I was kind of surprised that this game didn't, like, sell a little bit better. It sold really well, but, you know, I could have seen it really sell even better than it did. Maybe it's a pandemic thing a little bit, just because this is a kind of cool game to play with friends, like in person and sort of online as well. So you couldn't do a lot of that stuff, obviously, with the pandemic. So yeah, no, big fan, big thumbs up from me. And again, thank you Capcom for the code. And then we'll be going to our final review, Swinny.